Hi there, this is Josh from Literary Gladiators, and today I'm here with a book review. The book that I'm going to be reviewing is Firestarter by Stephen King. I really wanted to read some Stephen King books that I have not really read, that I have not read yet. And Firestarter is something that I was introduced to in middle school. One of my peers read it, but I instead read, I was reading The Running Man at the time, because I was attracted to that on the basis that there was a film adaptation where Arnold Schwarzenegger played the role of Ben Richards, and me being the game show enthusiast that I am, I thought it was very interesting that Richard Dawson was tapped to be the host, Damon Killian. In the book, he's Dan Killian. But with Firestarter, it's been 13, 14 years since I've been out of middle school. 13 years since I've been out, but I don't know if this was introduced to me during the first part of the year or later in the year. But personally, I felt that it's not a favorite Stephen King book of mine, and I don't think that I feel that other people would feel the same way. It hasn't picked up the acclaim that books of his have because of the film adaptation, because the film adaptation was, from what I've heard, very lukewarm. And films like The Shawshank Redemption for Rita Hayworth and The Shawshank Redemption and Stand By Me for the Body have really given that extra boost to the works themselves. And when in actuality, they were both novellas from different seasons, which I read 2 years ago. But Firestarter has to do with Charlene McGee, also known as Charlie McGee. She's a 7-year-old girl who's on the run with her dad, Andy, and they are trying to get away from a particular agency known as the Shop. They have connections to the government, and they engaged in an experiment some years before when Andy and his recently deceased wife, Vicky, she was Vicky Tomlinson back then, she became Vicky McGee when the two of them got married. They were engaged with, they took part in an experiment for money, and this eccentric Dr. Wanless injected them with a drug known as Lot 6, which he wanted to see what the result would be and whether or not it would give them particular psychic powers, and it turns out that it did. And when they produced a child in Charlie, she developed pyrokinesis, which pyrokinesis gives her those psychic telekinesis-like powers that you see from Carrie White in Stephen King's first novel, Carrie. But in addition to that, Charlie is able to start fires with her mind. I thought that when she just if you think about a fire, it starts a fire automatically. But Charlie has to really think intensely about it. And if she does so, she'll start a fire, and it can get very intense. And in some accidental cases, it has. But the more intense fires were the ones that she intended, and were, in their case, all the right reasons. And Andy is pretty much on the backhand of of his psychic powers, because he can exercise them, but it leaves him with migraines and nosebleeds. So it's not like he's in a great condition with his powers. But while this is a pretty interesting, it has interesting thriller elements to them, and the chase itself gets intense, I think that the strongest part is the commentary that it has when it comes to the trust that people may have when it comes to the establishment, because the shop most certainly abuses their power, and with their connections to the government, they get away with so many different things, and they blackmail so many different people because they want to get their experiment, which is Andy and Charlie, in particular Charlie, but Andy poses an equal threat at this point too, because he is going to help her out of the situation. They want them, and they want to experiment on them, and eventually they want to kill them. And you feel for Andy and Charlie, because they are having this is being inflicted on them. They didn't choose to be in the situation. They felt that Andy felt that there was an opportunity, he and Vicky, and Charlie was born into it. So you cannot help but feel for them. And but my particular issue had to do with the inconsistencies. I think that you have to budge in certain areas in order to make a story out of it. But with the powers that they had, they could have just kept using them and get themselves out of the situation at hand get themselves out of each of their situations. And Charlie, to me, I don't know very much about subjects of her age group and of her gender, but her character in one case was acting like, I would say, what I would imagine a 7-year-old girl would act like. There were moments where she acted much mature for her age, and it was just very... her attitude was very all over the place. And I think that in some cases that could make sense, but I just had challenges pinpointing her character. And I think that the characters in this piece in general were somewhat scattery when it came to their demeanor and their execution. But I think that the messages that were lying in the underbelly were what really drove this work home, and I gave this 3.5 out of 5 on my Goodreads. Thank you for tuning into this review. I hope you check out some more videos from our channel, and for now, keep reading.